Hello and welcome to the session on Tkinter with Python. What we are going to be doing in this video is exploring how you can get started with Tkinter so you can have a GUI interface inside Python and how you can use this template program to get started. Now, before we get into this program, what I want to do is just refer to both of these links here. So the first one is tutorials point. This is linked underneath the video. And this whole program has been built from tutorials point and also real Python here. So everything which I'm going to teach you in Tkinter, you'll also be able to find inside these two links here. If you are trying to do something which is kind of outside of the scope of this template, hopefully these links will help you. And you will then be able to implement some other things such as messages, list boxes, scales, and kind of all of the other things which you can see here. One of the problems which I have had in previous Tkinter programs is the scroll bar can sometimes be a little bit tricky to use, but again, I'm going to let you explore that for yourself. Now, over here in real Python, again, this is a really, really good guide if you are new to Tkinter, and this will hopefully help you to get started. But as I said, the template which we're using here is based from both of the links which I have just shared. Now, before we get started today, you're going to be able to see on the left-hand side, I have got a folder structure here. And I've got one for photos, which we are going to be using inside the iOS project. And one for iOS text, which is going to be all of the different text files which we are loading. Now, also, before we get started, this video is for the IGCSE Computer Science syllabus of videos, and we are creating a program here, which is based on input devices, output devices, and sensors. However, if you are watching this video and wanting to learn how to use Tkinter, again, the source code is linked underneath this video, and you can use the concepts and apply them to another scenario as well. Now, when we run this program at the moment, before we have a look at our source code, you're going to be able to see that we've got 3 menu buttons. So quit, this is going to kill REPL, and inside iOS devices, we've got some other options which we can click here, and we can go back to our menu as well. And we've also got something which is called a learn about the author. So what you are going to be doing, if you are one of my students, when you are working with this program, you're going to add a picture of you and place this John Doe image here. And you're going to add some information about you. So tell us some information about you as a student and what do you like about studying IGCSE Computer Science. So just add in some information into this author section. But the most important section for you here is iOS devices. So you're going to be taught about probably around 30 to 35 input devices, output devices, and sensors. And you need to put your understanding of each of these devices and your notes inside these device buttons. So this is going to be changed from device 1 to something like scanner. This might become QR reader. This may become laserjet printer. This may become pH sensor. And then you're going to need to have a look at how you can extend this program and add other buttons. And we will be getting to that a little bit later in today's video. But now we've been through what you have to do, let's have a look at how you can work with this code. So, first of all, first 3 lines. From Tkinter import star, root is equal to tk. So you can pretty much just leave this as is. You don't need to change anything here. All we are doing is we are importing Tkinter's library into Python, and we are referring to the Tkinter program root is equal to tk using this throughout our program. And what do I exactly mean by that? So if I scroll down, we can see when we are opening a new window, we're saying window is tk, and go down to our next function, we've also got window is tk again. So every time we're opening a window, this is how we are referring to our Tkinter module. So as I said, just leave this as it is, and you don't need to do anything with line number 4 as well. Now, if you notice when I opened each of my windows a moment ago, every time I clicked on a button, if I click on this, anything which was previously open has disappeared. And this is a really, really important concept when you are working with a menu-driven program. You don't want to have all of the previous windows open. It's going to become chaotic. It's going to become messy. So what we are using here is a .destroy function. And again, something which I have learned from real Python, lost my words there for a second, and also tutorials point, so really, really important. So this def function which we have created, def clear frame, this is allowing us, when we click a button, it is closing all of the previous child windows. So we have a nice, clear interface. So again, you can also pretty much just leave this and just implement this into your program if you are working with this template. Now, what we are going to be looking at first is how are we going to load all of the different text files into our program. So we've got def device 1 info, window is equal tk and with, and then we've got our file path, which is iOS text. So any text files you have should be uploaded into this. And then we have got the name of a file, and we're opening this up in read mode. So you should be familiar with file handling if you're one of my students, and if you're not one of my students, hopefully this concept does make sense. And then once we have opened up our file in read mode, what we need to do is we need to set up a label. So we've got label window is text equal to file.read. So we want to be able to read the data in our new window, which we are opening here. And you can play around with the X and Y coordinates for padding. If you want to understand a little bit more about padding, do head over to the links which I mentioned at the beginning. And what you can actually do is just change these values and have a look at how the pad X and pad Y values change. Now inside here, when we open up page number 1, you're going to be able to see we have got a back button here. So we're going to have a look at how that functionality works. But before we kind of get to that, what I want to do is I want to have a look at this function here. So what is our quit button doing? So when I am clicking on this window here, I should probably label this as back, but that's okay. This is allowing us to navigate back to the previous window, and notice we're not using a window.destroy when we've opened up this function here. It just allows us to go back to this main window which we previously had open. So this is what our back button is doing. And if you want to change some of the graphics or even the name of a button, this is where you would change it. And again, you can change the color, which is FG, which stands for foreground. You can change the border width, and you've also got pad X and pad Y as well. And you can see we are using our .destroy here when we click on back, as that is what is allowing us to close the window. But again, notice that previous window hasn't been closed. So this is pretty much the same for every single function here, and hopefully once you have watched this a couple of times, you've started to work with the code and you have asked me any questions which you need to ask, do comment underneath the video if you do have further questions. You will then be able to understand what device 1 info is doing and device 1 info second. So this second function here is the same as the first. It is just allowing us to have 2 buttons and open up 2 different text files and load in the information where we can see it says info goes here. If we head across to our text file, this is the information. So if I change that, it's going to update the information in this window here. Now, what we're going to have a look at now is how are we loading in this image and what image types do you need to use? So I haven't mentioned this in the lesson outline, but I'm just going to add a comment here and I'm going to say must use PNG images. Okay, so for some reason Tkinter doesn't get JPEGs. Some people have been able to get JPEGs to work, but I always use PNG images as it's always such a headache. So do make sure your image type is .png, so make sure it's not ending in .jpeg. Now we have got device 1 underscore image here, and this is how we are displaying this information inside our device 1 window. And you can see here, if I drag my program down, I'm going to get out of that option and I'm just going to drag it down. This here is our device 1 window. So we can see title is device 1. If you want to change it to scanner or QR code, this is where you do that. Now we are loading the image in the same way that we loaded the text file. So we've got our file path, and then we have got our image name, and then we've got label root is image is equal to my image. So this is going to be our globalized variable. So we're essentially taking the PNG file and we are putting it into this variable and it's being displayed in the window. You don't really need to worry too much about .pack at the moment. But as I said in these previous links, if you want to understand the difference between .pack and also grid and also place, do have a look at the Geometry Manager links here. but for the project which you're doing, you can pretty much just work with this code for now. Now, what you'll be able to see in here is once we've loaded that image, we've got these different buttons, and this is how we are displaying them in our device one window. So we've set up a button, that menu keeps appearing, so apologies. Page 1 is equal to button, root, text, page 1. And this is how we are creating our button here. And you can read a little bit more about buttons. If you wanted to add a third button, you could copy this and add page 3 underneath and create a new button. And I'll be showing you, and you can skip forward if you want, do look at the timeline underneath the video, how you can actually extend this program a little bit later on. Now, this is how we have created our buttons, and again, if you want to change the foreground color, if you want to change the default font, this is kind of where you can do that. Again, we've got our menu button and also our back button as well. And again, you can adjust the pad X and also the pad Y buttons. Now, this is pretty much how this window is working, and this is how we have set up all of our different buttons here. What I'm now going to do is we are going to have a look at how we are actually setting up the location of all of our buttons and everything else inside this window. So all of this code, device 2, is just all of the information which you can see inside iOS devices. So if you want to have device 5, which we're going to be looking at a little bit later today, how would we extend this program and how can you do that? So again, do use the timeline underneath. So for now, I'm going to scroll down, and there's lots and lots of code here, and we are just going to move past all of our devices and have a look at how this program is working. So we've got defining input device list. So this should really say defining iOS device list, as this project is about input output devices and also sensors. So first of all, this is our main window. Okay, so we've got input devices. So we should probably change this right now to be iOS devices, as this window name is wrong. And this is how we can set the foreground color of our writing and also change our font if we want to. And then here you're going to be able to find the different buttons which we have created. And at this point in the video, I did say I'm going to be making some changes to this code. So just so I don't ruin my template, I'm going to take this over to my new Python window over here. And just so we can get it to work, I am going to download all of these folders as well. So I'm going to pause this video and come back to it once I have downloaded all of these folders. Okay, so welcome back, and after messing around for a couple of minutes, I discovered that it's probably quicker for me to just fork the project, okay, rather than download all of the folders. So I'm just going to fork this, and I'm going to call this working with Tkinter and v2, just because I've got another file with the same name already. So working with Tkinter version 2, and we should have all of our files in here. So this next part of the video, we are having a look at how we can actually extend the program. So what we want to do here is we want to have a new button. Okay, so how would we actually do that? So first of all, inside iOS devices, we want to have a device 5. So in order to do this, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and show you where you can start. So I'm going to duplicate this function here. I'm going to duplicate device for info and also device image. Now, if you look at the previous code and the previous buttons here, I've actually got 2 files in each of device 1, device 2, device 3, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So if you are wanting to have 2 text files loaded, like a page 1 and page 2, like you can see here, you can simply just copy the code for device 1, 2, or 3. But as I want this to be as quick as possible, I'm just going to paste this code down here, and we are going to change everything to device 5 here. So our new device we are opening up is going to be device 5. And just so you can be 100% clear of how this is working, underneath iOS text here, I'm going to create a new folder and call this device5.txt. And hopefully this will give you a better understanding of how the program works. I'm going to add in here, this device will show us info about sensors, so some generic text. I'm going to use the same image for now, just so I don't need to upload anything else, and so we can get started. So you can upload a new image into your Photos folder. I'm going to work with the same one. So now we have created our new function. Okay, we've got device info 5. The file which we would like to load here is in the same folder structure, and it is called device5.txt. And I want to maybe change the padding. Okay, I probably wouldn't change this if you're one of my students, but if we want to adjust the padding here for X and Y, we can have a look at how this changes. We can change it from a deep pink to be a blue. You can actually use hexadecimal values here, so you could do like a hash and FF33 and FF, so DDFF, and also 44. But actually, I'm just going to leave this as a color, which you could see. I'm going to change it to blue here. So you can use the fixed value or fixed color, sorry, and you can also use the RGB values as well. So now that we have created our new window, what we need to do is we need to load a new image. And let's load inside iOS devices. Maybe we can load our John Doe image just so we don't have that same scanner image. So inside our image file, we can see our john.png is not inside a folder. So I can delete iOS folder / because it's not in a folder structure, and then I can just change the name of my image to be john.png. Okay, and this is the image which we're going to load. Inside here, I want to have a page 1 button. If we want to change the text here to be, let's say, scanner, this is where you would change it. And we can see here we are referring to device for info, and that's actually wrong. We're actually loading device 5 info now, because this is the function which we have created above. And let's get rid of this REPL error and let it reload. Hopefully nothing has been interrupted. And let's go back over to Tkinter and scroll back down to the bottom, and fingers crossed our programming hasn't been lost. So let's just check it out. So device 5. Here we go. Okay, if you notice, the information is gone from this folder, so I'm just going to add in some information. Again, say this device is a scanner. Okay, so REPL does crash sometimes, but for a browser-based programming platform, it's pretty good. So device 5 is set up. Okay, we have set up our text file, but you can see here that it's actually gone, so we're going to have to change this back again, and it's going to need to be called device5.txt, and we can leave everything else the same here, making sure we're not referring to device 4 anywhere. And over here we are going to change this to, let's say, scanner. And apologies for the kind of delay and having to backtrack here. You can see that REPL did crash, and we are loading john.png. So it's important that we are referring to the correct device here. So again, this is going to be device 5 info that we are loading, and anything else that we need to change, it looks pretty much straightforward for now. And here we have just created our new function. But we're not done there. We have created a new def function for our text file and a new def function to display our image. But we also need to make changes inside this def devices function here as well. And again, sorry for losing my words a little bit here. So this is where we are going to do that. So you can see here that device 4 is on our second row. And I think that it's really, really important for you that you set stuff up correctly. And also we need to make sure that we are using the correct indentation here. So I'm going to tab in, I'm going to paste that code, and I'm going to undo that and paste again. And just make sure that we are using the correct indentation. And that looks good now. So, new device is called device 5. So we're going to change this to device 5. Our button root text is now going to show as, I don't want it to say device 5, that's boring. Let's have it say scanner. and then we are going to be loading the device 5 image. So pretty much our functions are all using consistent names. Make sure that you are also using consistent names in your program as well. And that is the next change which we have to make. The other things which we can see in here are our menu and also our quit button. So if I scroll over, we've got menu and quit as well. And this is what is being displayed inside that iOS devices window. Now, we're also not done here. So we need to now have a look at how we can position our buttons into this GUI window. So we've got device 1, 2, 3. They are using grid row 1, column 0. So grid row 1, and then we are using column 0, 1, 2. Remember, Python is beginning at 0. So if we want to now add our new button next to device 4, we're going to copy this. This is row number 2. Make sure we're using the correct indentation so it doesn't error. And this is going to be device 5, row 2. And that's going to appear underneath column 1. And hopefully our button will then appear over here. We can also see we've got positioning for our menu. So if you want to reposition these at all, you can. Our buttons are not all the same size, but we can make them the same size, but we can kind of come to that in a later video. And then I think that is pretty much it. So I'm going to scroll to the end of my program. We've got author information, and again, you can obviously do this by yourself. We're going to go down to our main menu, and this is just the information which is being displayed on our main menu. And that is the end of the program. So if we, let's ignore this error for now. I don't know what that error is. And let's run the program and have a look to see if our device is loading. So we can see we've got a very small syntax error. This is a rookie error. Again, if you're watching this video and you're one of my students, you can laugh. And if you're not one of my students, also you can probably laugh as well. And we just need to fix that syntax error, which is coming from our device file. We've got 2 txt's. So we can delete. And then we should be good to continue. So let's run again. And if we go into iOS devices, hopefully, unless I've made some mistakes, you'll be able to see we've got our new button here. So scanner, we've successfully added it. If we click on it, we'll be able to see that we've got our John Doe image being loaded. And then let's just check what text is inside our device file. It says this device is a scanner. If we click on it, there we go. And our text has been loaded in. So this is the end of this Tkinter tutorial. Again, this dummy code or the template code is underneath this video, as well as the Python links. I do hope that this has been useful, and I look forward to seeing your projects. Again, if you're one of my students, I look forward to seeing your finished code and how you have been able to demonstrate how to work with files and also functions and also really, really long Python programs that are hopefully error-free. Thanks for watching.